Commander Vexnar stood on the bridge of his warship, the Crimson Fang, and watched the blue planet grow larger in the viewing screen. His 4 eyes blinked in sequence as he studied the world that his people, the Korath, had chosen as their next conquest. The planet was rich with water, minerals, and life. It would make a fine addition to the Korath Empire. "Commander, we have completed our scans of the dominant species," said Science Officer Trelma from her station. Her gray scales caught the dim light of the bridge as she turned to face him. "And what have you found?" Vexnar asked. He flexed his claws, a habit he had when he was excited about a new conquest. "They call themselves humans. They are a young species, only recently achieving space travel. Their technology is primitive compared to ours. Their weapons are simple projectile and explosive devices. They have no energy shields, no plasma weapons, and their ships are slow and fragile." Vexnar let out a low growl of satisfaction. "Then this conquest will be easy. How many of them are there?" "Approximately 8 billion on their home world, with small colonies on nearby planets and moons." 8 billion, one of the junior officers laughed. "That is nothing. We have conquered worlds with 10 times that population." Vexnar nodded in agreement. The Korath were known throughout the galaxy as fierce warriors. They were fast, strong, and deadly. Their scales could stop most small weapons, and their claws could tear through metal. In over 300 years of conquest, they had never met a species they could not defeat. "Send the message," Vexnar ordered. "Tell them to surrender or be destroyed." The communication officer pressed several buttons on his console. A few moments later, the response came back. It was a single word in the human language. "No." Vexnar's eyes widened with surprise, then narrowed with anger. "They dare to refuse us. Send the landing forces. We will teach these humans what happens to those who defy the Korath Empire." Thousands of dropships launched from the Korath fleet. They fell through the atmosphere like metal rain, heading for the largest human cities. The first wave of warriors landed in a place the humans called New York. War leader Krathful was the first to step onto human soil. He was the biggest and strongest warrior in the invasion force. His scales were dark red, almost black, and his claws had ended the lives of countless enemies on dozens of worlds. He looked around at the tall buildings and the strange vehicles that filled the streets. The humans had already fled, leaving the city empty. "Cowards," Krathful said. "They run from us like prey." "War leader," one of his scouts called out. "I am picking up heat signatures to the north. A large group of humans is moving away from our position." "They think they can escape," Krathful laughed. "Pursue them. Show them that the Korath cannot be outrun." The Korath warriors moved through the city streets at high speed. Their powerful legs carried them faster than any human could run. They jumped over abandoned cars and crashed through barriers. They were predators, and the hunt was on. Within minutes, they caught up to the first group of humans. There were soldiers among them, men and women in green uniforms carrying their primitive weapons. They fired at the Korath, and a few warriors fell, but most of the bullets bounced harmlessly off their scales. The battle was short and brutal. The Korath claws and plasma rifles made quick work of the human defenders, but something strange happened. The humans did not surrender. They did not beg for mercy. They fought until the very end, and even when they were wounded, they kept fighting. Krathful stood over the body of a human soldier. The creature was small and weak, with soft skin and no claws, yet it had fought with a ferocity that surprised him. He looked at the other bodies around him. They had all fought the same way. "Strange," he muttered. "Most prey species surrender when they know they cannot win." "Perhaps they are simply stupid," one of his warriors suggested. "Perhaps," Krathful agreed, but something in his gut told him there was more to these humans than met the eye. Over the next few days, the Korath forces spread across the planet. They took city after city, defeating human armies wherever they found them. The humans had some success with their heavy weapons. their tanks and aircraft, but they could not match the Korath technology. But the humans refused to surrender. Every city had to be taken by force. Every building had to be cleared. And the humans kept coming back. They would attack Korath patrols at night. They would set traps and ambushes. They would strike and then disappear into the wilderness. Commander Vexnar grew impatient. "Why is this taking so long?" he demanded during a meeting with his war leaders. "These creatures are weak. Their technology is primitive. We should have conquered this world in days." "The humans fight differently than any species we have encountered," Krathful reported. He had wounds on his scales from human weapons. "They do not stop. Even when we defeat them, they come back. Even when they are outnumbered and outgunned, they keep fighting." "They will tire eventually," Vexnar said. "All prey tires." But the humans did not tire. Weeks passed and the fighting continued. The Korath controlled the cities, but the humans controlled the countryside. They attacked supply lines. They destroyed equipment. They made the Korath pay for every step they took on human soil. Science officer Trelma had been studying the humans during this time. She had captured prisoners and examined their bodies. She had read their books and watched their recorded history. What she found disturbed her greatly. One night, she requested a private meeting with Commander Vexnar. "Commander, I have discovered something important about the humans," she said. Her voice was shaking, which was unusual for the calm science officer. "What is it?" Vexnar asked. Trelma took a deep breath. "We made a terrible mistake. We thought the humans were prey because they are slow and weak, but they are not prey, Commander. They are predators." Vexnar laughed. "Predators. They have no claws, no fangs, no scales. They cannot even run fast. How can they be predators?" "They are a type of predator we have never encountered before," Trelma said. "They are what their scientists call persistence predators." "What does that mean?" Trelma pulled up images on her data pad. On their world, there was a hunting method used by early humans. They would choose a prey animal and begin to chase it. The animal would run away faster than the human could follow, but the human would not stop. It would keep walking, keep following, never resting. The animal would run again and the human would follow again. This would continue for hours, sometimes days. Eventually, the animal would collapse from exhaustion, and the human would simply walk up to it and kill it. Vexnar stared at the images. They showed primitive humans chasing large animals across vast plains. "This is impossible. No creature can maintain such a chase." "Humans can," Trelma said. "Their bodies are designed for endurance, not speed. They can cool themselves through sweating, allowing them to keep moving when other creatures must rest. They can carry water and food with them. And most importantly, Commander, they never give up." Vexnar felt a cold sensation in his stomach. "What are you saying?" "I am saying that we are the prey now, Commander. The humans are not running from us. They are wearing us down. Every attack, every ambush, every raid is part of their hunt. They know they cannot defeat us in a direct battle, so they are doing what their ancestors did. They are chasing us, and they will not stop until we collapse." The War Council gathered on the bridge of the Crimson Fang. All the senior officers were present, along with the war leaders from the ground forces. They had been fighting the humans for 3 months now, and things were not going well. War leader Krathful stood before them with his report. His once-proud scales were dull and scratched. He had lost weight, and there were dark circles under his 4 eyes. "We have lost 30% of our ground forces," he said. "Not from any single battle, but from constant attacks. The humans strike every night, sometimes multiple times. They attack our supply lines, our communication centers, our medical facilities. When we chase them, they disappear. When we set up defenses, they find ways around them." "Then chase them harder," one of the older commanders said. "Run them down." Krathful shook his head. "We have tried. Our warriors can run faster than humans, but only for a short distance. After a few hours of pursuit, our warriors must rest. The humans do not rest. They keep moving, keep attacking. By the time our warriors recover, the humans have struck somewhere else. Science Officer Trelma stepped forward. This is exactly what I warned about. The humans are using persistence hunting against us. They are not trying to win battles. They are trying to exhaust us. Commander Vexnar studied the map of the planet. Red dots showed Korath positions. They were scattered, isolated, and vulnerable. The human attacks were constant, unpredictable, and effective. How is this possible? Vexnar asked. We are the most feared warriors in the galaxy. We have conquered hundreds of worlds. How are these soft, slow creatures defeating us? Because we are fighting the wrong kind of war, Trelma said. We are predators, yes, but we are ambush predators. We rely on speed, strength, and surprise. We attack quickly, defeat our enemies, and move on. But the humans are different. They do not need to defeat us quickly. They only need to keep fighting until we cannot fight anymore. One of the war leaders slammed his fist on the table. This is madness. We should send more troops, more ships, burn their cities, destroy their farms, force them to surrender. We have tried, Krathful said quietly. We burned their cities. They moved to the countryside. We destroyed their farms. They found other ways to feed themselves. We killed their leaders. New leaders took their place. The humans have a saying, for every one you kill, 10 more take their place. I thought it was an exaggeration. It is not. The room fell silent. Vexnar looked at the faces of his officers. He saw something he had never seen before in Korath warriors: fear. Tell me more about these persistence predators, he said to Trelma. Trelma pulled up her research on the main screen. Humans evolved on a planet with many large, fast predators. They were not the fastest, strongest, or most dangerous animals on their world, but they survived because of their endurance. They could travel longer distances than any other land animal. They could survive in extreme heat and extreme cold. They could go days without food or water when necessary. Their bodies are designed to recover quickly from injury and to keep functioning even when damaged. She showed images of human athletes running long distances. On their world, they have events called marathons and ultramarathons. Humans run for hundreds of kilometers without stopping. They cross deserts. They climb mountains. They do these things not because they have to, but for fun. Vexnar felt his scales tighten. For fun. Yes, Commander. The humans enjoy pushing themselves to their limits. They find satisfaction in enduring pain and hardship. This is not a weakness we can exploit. It is a strength that makes them nearly impossible to defeat. War Leader Krathful spoke again. There is something else. I have fought many species, Commander. Most of them break when they face overwhelming force. They surrender, flee, or accept their fate. The humans do none of these things. They have a concept they call spite. When they know they cannot win, they fight anyway just to make us suffer. They would rather die hurting us than live in peace. That is irrational, one of the officers said. Yes, Krathful agreed. But it is effective. Our warriors are afraid now, not of the humans themselves, but of the never-ending fight. There is no rest, no victory, no end in sight. The humans have made it clear that even if we kill every last one of them, they will make us pay such a price that it will not be worth it. Vexnar was quiet for a long time. He thought about his career, his conquests, his place in Korath history. He had never retreated from a battle in his life. The very idea of retreat was shameful to the Korath. But as he looked at the map, at the scattered and weakening positions of his forces, he began to understand something. They had not invaded a planet of prey animals. They had stepped into a trap set by the most patient predators in the galaxy. What do you recommend? He finally asked. Trelma hesitated. Commander, I recommend we withdraw. The room erupted in shouts of protest. Warriors slammed their fists on tables and roared with anger. The word retreat was almost never spoken by the Korath. It was considered the ultimate dishonor. But Vexnar raised his hand for silence. Explain, he said. This war cannot be won, Trelma said. Not with the forces we have. Not with 10 times the forces we have. The humans will never stop fighting. Their entire history is a record of wars that lasted for decades, sometimes centuries. They fight each other with the same endless determination. If we continue this war, we will eventually lose. Not today, not tomorrow, but eventually. The humans will wear us down until there is nothing left. Krathful nodded slowly. I never thought I would agree with retreat, but she is right. I have seen the look in human eyes. They are not afraid of us. They are not even angry at us. They simply see us as an obstacle to be overcome, no matter how long it takes. That is more frightening than any weapon they possess. The debate continued for hours. Some officers wanted to fight to the death. Others wanted to call for reinforcements from the Empire. But as the arguments went on, more and more of them began to accept the truth. They had made a terrible mistake by attacking this planet. Finally, Vexnar made his decision. We will withdraw, he said. His voice was heavy with shame but also with relief. We will leave this planet and never return, and we will send a warning to every fleet in the Empire. Do not attack the humans. They are not prey. They are the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. The human resistance fighters watched from a hilltop as the alien ships began to lift off from the conquered cities. Captain Sarah Chen lowered her binoculars and shook her head in disbelief. They are actually leaving, she said. They are really leaving. Her second-in-command, Lieutenant Marcus Williams, stood beside her. He was dirty, tired, and thin from months of fighting, but there was a smile on his face. We did it, he said. We actually did it. Sarah thought about the past 3 months. She thought about the battles they had fought, the friends they had lost, the sacrifices they had made. They had never won a major battle against the aliens. Their weapons had barely scratched the enemy's armor. By every measure that mattered, they should have lost. But they had not lost. They had refused to lose. Do you know what made the difference? She asked Marcus. He shrugged. Stubbornness. Sarah laughed. Maybe, but I think it was something more than that. We knew we could not beat them in a fair fight, so we did not fight fair. We hit them and ran. We made them chase us. We made them tired. We made them afraid. They are not supposed to feel fear, Marcus said. Their reports said they were the most fearsome warriors in the galaxy. Everyone feels fear, Sarah replied. They just did not know what to be afraid of until they met us. Below them, the alien ships were gathering into formation. Thousands of vessels, each one more advanced than anything humanity had ever built. They had come to conquer the Earth. They were leaving in defeat. Sarah picked up her radio. All units, this is Captain Chen. The enemy is retreating. Do not engage. Let them go. We have won. The cheers that came back over the radio made her heart swell. They had won against impossible odds. Not through superior technology or firepower, but through the oldest human weapon of all, the refusal to give up. On the Crimson Fang, Commander Vexnar watched the planet shrink in the viewing screen. His career was over. When he returned to the Empire, he would face disgrace and possibly execution. But at least he would return. At least his warriors would survive. Commander, Trelma said quietly, what should I include in the official report? Vexnar thought for a moment. Tell the truth, he said. Tell them that we attacked a world of persistence predators. Tell them that the humans do not fight like any species we have ever encountered. Tell them that the humans never stop, never surrender, and never forget. And tell them this, any fleet that attacks the human home world will not return. The report was sent ahead of the fleet, transmitted at faster-than-light speeds to every corner of the Korath Empire. Within days, it had spread to other empires, other civilizations, other species. The story of the failed invasion became a legend that would be told for generations. On Earth, the humans began to rebuild. They buried their dead, repaired their cities, and prepared for the future. They had made first contact with alien life, and it had been violent and terrible. But they had survived. More than survived, they had proven something about themselves that they had always known but never had to demonstrate on such a grand scale. They were the children of persistence hunters. They carried in their blood the legacy of ancestors who had chased prey across endless savannas. They had the bodies and minds of creatures designed to never give up, no matter how long the hunt, no matter how difficult the chase. The galaxy had many predators, fast predators with claws and fangs, strong predators with armor and weapons, smart predators with technology and strategy. But there was only one species of persistence predators, only one species that would chase its enemies to the ends of the universe if necessary. The humans had announced themselves to the galaxy, and the galaxy had learned to be afraid. The news of the Korath retreat spread through the galaxy faster than light itself. On 1,000 worlds, in 1,000,000 conversations, beings of every shape and size discussed the impossible thing that had happened. The mighty Korath Empire, undefeated in 3 centuries of conquest, had fled from a primitive world of soft-skinned beings with no claws. Emperor Zarentex received the news in his throne room on the Korath home world. He read Commander Vexnar's report 3 times, certain that there must be some mistake. Then he read the intelligence analysis that accompanied it. "This cannot be correct," he said to his advisors. "One small planet defeated an entire invasion fleet." "They did not defeat us in battle, Majesty," the head of military intelligence explained. "They simply refused to be defeated. Our forces won every major engagement, but the humans would not surrender. They kept fighting, kept dying, kept making us pay for every step. After 3 months, our troops were exhausted, our supplies were running low, and we had made no meaningful progress toward complete control of the planet. Then send more troops, send more supplies, burn the planet if necessary. Majesty, we estimated that complete conquest of the human world would require 10 times our current forces and 5 to 10 years of continuous fighting. Even then, our analysts believe the humans would continue resistance through guerrilla warfare indefinitely. The cost would be enormous, and the strategic value of the planet does not justify such expenditure." The emperor was silent. In all his years of rule, he had never heard such words. Cost, value. These were not words the Korath used when discussing war. They conquered because they were strong. They destroyed because they could. The idea of calculating whether a war was worth fighting was foreign to their entire culture. But the humans had forced them to think in new ways. "What do you recommend?" the emperor finally asked. "We recommend avoiding conflict with the humans. Let them have their small corner of the galaxy. They pose no threat to us as long as we do not threaten them." The emperor dismissed his advisors and sat alone in his throne room. He thought about what it meant for the Korath Empire. For 300 years, they had been the apex predators of the galaxy. Other species feared them. Other empires paid tribute to avoid their wrath. But now there was a species that did not fear them. A species that could not be intimidated or conquered by force. A species that would fight until the last breath and beyond. The emperor made his decision. He issued an imperial decree that declared human space off-limits to all Korath vessels. The official reason given was that the human worlds were not worth the effort of conquest. The real reason was fear, though no Korath would ever admit it. Across the galaxy, other empires took notice. The Vrel Confederation, the Morthax Collective, the Alliance of 7 Suns, all of them had been watching the Korath invasion with interest. Many of them had planned to make their own claims on the human world once the Korath had softened it up. Now those plans were abandoned. If the Korath could not conquer the humans, then no one could. Better to leave the strange persistence predators alone. On Earth, life slowly returned to normal. The cities were rebuilt, stronger than before. The militaries of the world unified into a single force, dedicated to defending the planet from future attacks. Scientists studied the alien technology left behind, reverse engineering weapons and engines that would have taken centuries to develop on their own. But the most important change was in the human spirit. Before the invasion, humanity had been divided. Nations competed against each other for resources and power. Wars were fought over borders and beliefs. The old tribal instincts that had helped humans survive as persistent hunters had turned inward, causing them to hunt each other. The alien invasion changed that. For the first time in history, all of humanity had faced a common enemy. They had fought together, bled together, and won together. The experience had reminded them of something important. They were all one tribe, one species, one family. And when that family was threatened, they would stand together against any enemy. 5 years after the retreat, the first human faster-than-light ship launched from Earth orbit. It was a small vessel, barely large enough for a crew of 20, but it represented a giant leap for humanity. They were no longer confined to their home system. The galaxy was now open to them. Captain Sarah Chen, hero of the Resistance, was chosen to command the first mission. She stood on the bridge of the ship, the HSS Persistence, and looked at the stars on the viewing screen. "Where should we go first?" her navigator asked. Sarah smiled. It was the same question she had asked herself countless times during the Resistance. Where do we go? How do we escape? How do we survive? But now the question had a different meaning. Now it was not about survival, but about exploration, about discovery, about taking humanity's place among the stars. "Anywhere we want," she said. "The galaxy is a big place. Let us see what is out there." The Persistence jumped to faster-than-light speed and disappeared from Earth's system. It was the first of many ships that would follow. Humanity was spreading out into the galaxy, not as conquerors but as explorers. They brought with them the lessons of the invasion, the importance of unity, the value of endurance, and the power of never giving up. Other species watched with a mixture of curiosity and caution. The humans were strange beings. They were weak individually but strong together. They were slow but tireless. They were kind and generous but also capable of terrifying violence when threatened. They were contradictions wrapped in soft skin, and no one quite knew what to make of them. Some species avoided them entirely. They had heard the stories of the Korath invasion and wanted nothing to do with creatures who could wear down the mightiest warriors in the galaxy. Others approached cautiously, seeking trade and diplomatic relations. They found the humans to be friendly and open, eager to learn about new cultures and share their own. The humans seemed to have no interest in conquest or domination. They simply wanted to explore, to discover, to connect. But everyone understood, even if it was never spoken aloud, that there was a line that should never be crossed. Threaten humanity, attack their homes, hurt their families, and they would become something else entirely. They would become the Persistence predators of legend, and they would never stop hunting until their enemies were destroyed. 10 years after the invasion, the galaxy had reached a new equilibrium. Humanity had established colonies on dozens of worlds. They had made alliances with peaceful species and trading agreements with others. They had become a respected member of the galactic community. Commander Vexnar, disgraced and exiled, lived out his final years on a remote Korath colony. He spent his days writing his memoirs, hoping to leave some record of what he had learned. In his final entry, he wrote, "I once believed that the Korath were the ultimate predators. We were fast, strong, and deadly. We conquered worlds and destroyed civilizations, but I was wrong. The humans taught me that true predation is not about speed or strength. It is about patience. It is about endurance. It is about the willingness to pursue your prey until the end of time if necessary. The humans are the ultimate predators, not because of what they can do, but because of what they will not stop doing. Any species that forgets this lesson will learn it again, as I did, the hard way." He died shortly after completing his memoirs. His words were forbidden by the Korath Empire, but copies spread through the galaxy anyway. They became required reading for military academies on 100 worlds. The lessons of the human war were taught to every young officer, every diplomat, every leader. Never attack the humans, never threaten their homes, never give them a reason to hunt you. Because if you do, they will never stop. They will follow you across star systems and across generations. They will pass their hunt from parent to child, from generation to generation. They will chase you until you collapse from exhaustion, until your civilization crumbles from the weight of endless war, until there is nothing left but ashes and memories. The humans are persistence predators, and persistence predators always catch their prey. 50 years had passed since the Korath invasion. The galaxy had changed in ways that no one could have predicted. Humanity had spread to hundreds of worlds, building a civilization that stretched across light years. They had formed the Human Alliance, a democratic federation of colonies united by common values and shared heritage. The Alliance was not the largest power in the galaxy, nor the most technologically advanced, but it was respected. More than that, it was feared in a way that no other civilization was feared. Not the fear of a predator that might attack, but the fear of a creature that would never stop if provoked. Admiral James Chen, son of the famous Captain Sarah Chen, commanded the Alliance's first fleet. He was 50 years old, gray at the temples, and carried the weight of humanity's defense on his shoulders. He stood on the bridge of his flagship, the HSS Endurance, and studied the tactical display with growing concern. "Report," he said. His operations officer, a young woman named Lieutenant Park, responded immediately. "Sir, we have confirmed reports of a massive fleet gathering in the Outer Rim. Species unknown, but the energy signatures suggest technology far beyond anything we have encountered." "How massive?" "Over 10,000 vessels, sir. The smallest of them is larger than our biggest battleship." Admiral Chen felt a familiar sensation in his gut. It was not fear, exactly. It was more like recognition. He had grown up on stories of the Korath invasion. He had trained his entire life for the possibility of another attack. "Do we know their intentions?" "They have made contact, sir. They call themselves the Fourth Dominion. They claim to be the supreme power in this region of the galaxy. They demand that humanity surrender all colonies beyond our original system and pay tribute to their emperor." Chen smiled grimly. "They demand surrender." "Yes, sir." "Do they not know our history?" "Apparently not, sir. Our intelligence suggests they are from a distant part of the galaxy. They may not have heard of the Korath War." Chen turned to his communications officer. "Open a channel to the Fourth Fleet." The screen flickered and a face appeared. It was unlike anything Chen had ever seen. The Vorth were massive creatures, easily 3 meters tall, with blue skin and multiple arms. Their eyes were cold and calculating, and their voice was like grinding stone. "I am Supreme Commander Zalvex of the Fourth Dominion. You will surrender to us or be destroyed. This is not a negotiation." Chen stood straight and faced the alien commander. "I am Admiral James Chen of the Human Alliance. We do not surrender. We never have and we never will. If you attack us, you will regret it." The Fourth Commander made a sound that might have been laughter. "You threaten us. We have conquered 1,000 worlds. Your little alliance is nothing compared to our might." "The Korath said the same thing 50 years ago. Do you know what happened to them?" There was a pause. "We know of the Korath, a weak species that failed where we will succeed." The Korath were not weak. They were one of the most powerful military civilizations in this part of the galaxy. They invaded our home world with overwhelming force, and they retreated in defeat. Because their commanders were fools. Chen shook his head. Because they learned something important about humans. We are persistence predators. We do not fight to win single battles. We fight to win wars no matter how long they take. We will lose battles against you. Your ships are bigger, your weapons are stronger, your technology is more advanced, but we will not stop fighting. We will retreat and regroup. We will hit you and run. We will make every system you take cost you dearly. And we will keep fighting for years, for decades, for centuries if we have to. Can your empire afford a war that never ends?" The fourth commander was silent for a long moment. "You are bluffing." "I am not. Look up the HFY War in your databases. Read the reports if any survived. Then ask yourself, do you want to be the next empire that underestimates humanity?" The transmission ended. Admiral Chen turned to his officers. "Battle stations, prepare for the worst." But the attack never came. Hours passed, then days. The Fourth Fleet remained at the edge of human space, unmoving. Intelligence officers reported that the Vorth were frantically communicating with other species, gathering information about humanity. What they learned must have disturbed them. The stories of the HFY War had spread throughout the galaxy. Other species shared their own experiences with humans, tales of stubborn negotiators, persistent traders, and explorers who would spend years on a single project without giving up. On the seventh day, the Fourth Fleet turned around and left. No announcement was made, no explanation given. They simply disappeared back into the depths of space. Admiral Chen received a message from the Fourth Commander before they left. It was short and simple. "We have decided that the human alliance is not worth the cost of conquest. We will seek tribute elsewhere." The Admiral shared the message with his crew. There was cheering and celebration throughout the fleet. They had faced down the most powerful armada they had ever encountered, and they had won without firing a single shot. But Chen did not celebrate. He understood what had really happened. The Vorth had not been defeated. They had simply recognized the truth that the HFY had learned 50 years ago. Fighting humans was not like fighting other species. It was not a battle that could be won. It was a war of attrition that would drain resources, exhaust armies, and destroy empires. Humans did not fight to win. They fought to survive, and they were very, very good at surviving. Months later, Admiral Chen attended a ceremony on Earth. It was the dedication of a new monument to the heroes of the HFY War. His mother, Captain Sarah Chen, was there, old now but still sharp-eyed and strong-willed. "You did well, James," she told him. "You faced them down just like we did." "I learned from the best," he replied. "But I wonder how long our reputation will protect us. Eventually, someone will call our bluff." Sarah shook her head. "It is not a bluff, James. That is what they never understand. We really will fight forever if we have to. It is in our blood, in our bones. Our ancestors chased prey across continents for millions of years. We evolved to never give up. It is not a strategy or a tactic. It is who we are." James looked at the monument. It showed humans of all nations standing together, facing an unseen enemy. The inscription at the base read, "We endured, we persisted, we survived." "Do you think there will ever be peace?" he asked. Sarah smiled. "There is peace now in a way. No one attacks us because they know the cost. That is a kind of peace, even if it is built on fear. Maybe someday we will find species who want to be friends instead of conquerors. Until then, we will do what we have always done." "What is that?" "Keep going, keep moving, keep fighting if we have to. Never stop, never surrender, never give up." She put her hand on his shoulder. "That is the human way, James, and it always will be." The ceremony ended and the crowds dispersed. James Chen stood alone before the monument, thinking about the future. Humanity had come so far, from primitive hunters on a single world to a civilization that spanned the stars. They had faced impossible odds and survived. They had earned the fear of the galaxy. But fear was not enough. James dreamed of something more. He dreamed of a day when humans could share their persistence, their endurance, their never-give-up spirit with other species. Not as a weapon, but as a gift. The ability to keep going when everything seemed hopeless. The strength to face adversity and refuse to surrender. That was humanity's true legacy. Not their wars or their conquests, but their stubborn, irrational, magnificent refusal to ever give up. The stars were full of challenges, dangers, and wonders, and humanity would face them all, one step at a time, for as long as it took. Because that is what persistence predators do. They never stop. 100 years after the Korath invasion, humanity had become something no one could have imagined. They were no longer just a species clinging to the edge of the galaxy. They were a galactic power, with colonies on thousands of worlds and alliances with dozens of species. They had transformed from the hunted to the respected, from the primitive to the advanced. But they had never forgotten where they came from. On the anniversary of the first retreat, a ceremony was held on Earth. Representatives from across the human alliance gathered at the Memorial of Persistence, a massive structure that had grown over the decades to honor all who had fought and died in humanity's wars. Ambassador Elena Santos stood at the podium. She was 85 years old, one of the last living veterans of the Korath War. Her hands trembled as she held her notes, but her voice was strong. 100 years ago, we were invaded by the Korath Empire. They came with ships and weapons we could not match. They thought they would conquer us in days. They were wrong. She paused, looking out at the crowd. There were humans of every color and origin, united as they had been since the invasion. There were also aliens, representatives from friendly species who had come to pay their respects. We did not win because we were stronger. We did not win because we were smarter. We won because we refused to lose. We won because when they knocked us down, we got back up. When they pushed us back, we pushed forward again. When they thought we were finished, we proved them wrong. In the audience, a young girl sat with her family. Her name was Maya, and she was only 8 years old. She had heard stories about the Korath War all her life, but she had never really understood what they meant. Now, listening to the old woman speak, something clicked in her mind. "Mama," she whispered, "why did we win?" Her mother smiled and pulled her close. "Because we never gave up, sweetheart. No matter what happened, we never gave up." Ambassador Santos continued her speech. "Today, we honor not just those who fought, but the spirit that made us fight, the spirit of persistence, the spirit of endurance, the spirit that says no matter how hard the road, no matter how long the journey, we will keep walking until we reach our destination." She turned to the alien representatives. "Our friends from other worlds, you have asked us many times what makes humans special. This is your answer. We are not the fastest or the strongest. We are not the most intelligent or the most advanced, but we are the most stubborn creatures in the galaxy. We do not know how to quit, and that makes all the difference." The ceremony ended with a moment of silence for all who had died. Then the crowds dispersed, returning to their homes and their lives, but the message lingered in their hearts. Across the galaxy, other species watched the human ceremony with curiosity and awe. They had their own histories, their own heroes, their own struggles, but they had to admit that there was something unique about humans. The Fourth Dominion, once so eager to conquer humanity, had become a trading partner. Their supreme commander had learned the lesson that the Korath had learned before him. Humans were not worth fighting. Better to trade with them, to learn from them, to perhaps even befriend them. Other species had made similar decisions. The galaxy was still a dangerous place, full of conflict and competition. But humanity had carved out a space for themselves through sheer persistence. They had earned their place among the stars. In a small colony on the edge of human space, a research station worked on a project that would have seemed impossible a century ago. Scientists from a dozen species collaborated on the development of a new form of propulsion that would allow travel to other galaxies. The project had been ongoing for 20 years, with slow but steady progress. Dr. Trelvex, a descendant of the famous science officer Trelma who had first warned the Korath about humans, led the research team. She was old now, her gray scales faded and her movements slow. But she had dedicated her life to this project, inspired by the humans she had come to admire. "Why do you keep working?" one of her colleagues asked her one day. "The project could take another 50 years. You will not live to see it completed." Trelvik smiled, a human expression she had adopted. "That does not matter. What matters is that we keep making progress. Someday, someone will complete what we started, and when they do, they will know that we never gave up." It was a very human answer, and that was perhaps the greatest legacy of the Korath War. Humanity had not just survived. They had changed the galaxy. Their spirit of persistence, their refusal to surrender, had spread to other species. The idea that you could keep fighting, keep working, keep hopping even when victory seemed impossible had become a philosophy shared across the stars. Young Maya grew up to become a starship captain, just like her heroes from the history books. She commanded the HSS Never Surrender, an exploration vessel that pushed the boundaries of known space. Her crew was diverse, including humans and aliens alike, all united by the common belief that no challenge was too great if you refused to give up. One day, her ship encountered something strange at the edge of the galaxy. It was a signal coming from beyond the rim of known space. The signal was weak, but it was clearly artificial. Someone or something was out there calling to them. Captain Maya Chen, named after both of the legendary Chens who had come before her, studied the signal with wonder. "What do you think it is?" her first officer asked. "I do not know," she replied, "but I intend to find out. The journey could take years. We might not make it." Maya smiled. "Then we will keep going until we do. That is what humans do. That is what we have always done." The Never Surrender turned toward the signal and began its journey. It was a voyage that would take them farther from home than any human had ever gone. There would be dangers, challenges, and moments of despair, but the crew did not hesitate. They were the children of persistence hunters. They carried in their blood the legacy of ancestors who had chased prey across endless savannas, who had survived ice ages and plagues and wars, who had faced an alien invasion and refused to surrender. They would keep going, keep exploring, keep pushing forward, because that was what persistence predators did. And somewhere out there, beyond the edge of the galaxy, something was waiting for them. Something new, something unknown, something that would test them in ways they could not imagine. But whatever it was, humanity would face it the same way they had faced every challenge in their history, with courage, with determination, and with the unshakable belief that they would never, ever give up. The stars stretched out before them, infinite and full of possibility. The journey was just beginning. And humanity was ready.